In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the British government, at that stage Labour, drew up a new counter-terrorism strategy. There were 4 pillars: pursue, protect, prepare, and most controversially, prevent. Prevent is an attempt to root out radicalisation early by requiring people like teachers, social workers, doctors and faith leaders to report any concerns they have about people vulnerable to extremism to a local prevent panel. The panel then decide whether to take further action, including offering support and monitoring through a different programme called Channel. Last year, more than 7,000 individuals were referred under Prevent. Of those, only 394 actually ended up on a Channel programme, of which 179 were referred for concerns related to Islamist extremism and 174 were referred for concerns related to right-wing extremism. Prevent has come in for criticism from, amongst others, some MPs, civil liberties campaigners and the Muslim community.
Prevent is racist, it's institutionally racist, it has demonised the Muslim community, and the Muslim community do not have a trust and confidence in it. If you talk to academics, they will tell you that they are not security experts, they shouldn't be policing their students. That's from academics and doctors and nurses. We have had an agenda over the last 10 years where we have the whole securitisation agenda is impacting across our public sector, across our society, and we need to ask the question, is that the right way to do it?
And so the contents have it.
Back in January, the government was forced by the House of Lords to establish an independent review of Prevent. But now its choice of independent reviewer, Alex Carlile, has also attracted criticism. In May, Lord Carlile seemed to indicate his support for Prevent.
If we were to abandon Prevent, then there would be terrorism acts which we have been able to avoid as a result of that policy, and I admit I played a part in it, so I may be somewhat biased towards it.
He's not the person for the job. He's not the man for the job. He's not cut out for the job because he isn't independent.
The government clearly still believes in its strategy, but will picking Lord Carlile to pass judgment risk reducing Prevent's credibility even further with its critics? Well, earlier in his first broadcast interview since his appointment, I spoke to the Prevent reviewer, Lord Carlile. I began by asking him what he will be scrutinising in his new role.
I will be scrutinising the performance up to now of the Prevent strand of counter-terrorism policy with a view to advising as to what should happen to Prevent, what kind of policy of this kind, if any, there should be in the future. Everything is up for discussion.
Including scrapping it?
Oh, including scrapping it, absolutely. Everything is up for discussion, including scrapping it, replacing it with something different, continuing with it, modifying it, perfecting it, introducing new streams of thought into it. This is a completely open book. It's blue sky thinking.
In your view, why is there so much suspicion of Prevent?
Well, early in the life of Prevent, there is no doubt that some mistakes were made. I mean, for example, there were some devices, lights put up over certain community areas, which were turned on for a day and then never used.
When you say lights, what do you mean?
I mean lights on poles that lit up communities, so that the security lights, so that the police could see what was going on.
And those were effectively Muslim communities?
Yeah, and yes, and you know, that happened in Birmingham.
So is the criticism legitimate, do you think? This suspicion of Prevent, this lack of trust?
Oh, I'm no doubt that some criticism is well taken and legitimate, and some is not, but that's just a truism, isn't it? That's true of all forms of criticism of a major policy. Let's not forget too that we're not just looking at violent Islamic-based terrorism, and let's remember that 99.9% recurring of Muslims in this country deplore terrorism. We're now looking at a great deal of extreme right-wing terrorism.
And referrals to that for Prevent have gone up.
Yeah, nearly half of the referrals to Prevent in the last year or so have been right-wing extremism, and that is a matter of great concern to Muslim, Jewish and other communities.
Last year, 42% of referrals to Prevent resulted in no action. You could see it, as you say, as, you know, yes, they're giving you very relevant, very important information, or you could see it as they're waiting an incredibly long time when presumably there are flags already that are flagging up issues to them, but they don't trust the programme. So it's, they're only referring their, family member when they really, really believe something serious is about to happen.
You could say that. I mean, I think it's a much more complex problem than that, if you'll forgive me saying so. And this relates partly to the role of women. Now, I believe that there is evidence in Muslim communities and also in communities where right-wing extremism arises, that women would like to play a bigger part in ensuring that people do not become terrorists, husbands, brothers, sons, and so on. I think that we need to do some work in inquiring into how that can be potentiated. Women should be empowered to play exactly the same equal role in society as their menfolk.
When it comes to the lack of trust, the suspicion, do you see it as based on genuine grievances, or is it something else as well?
Well, I think the lack of trust is sometimes exaggerated. There are people who persist in saying that Prevent is a toxic brand, and I will treat that view with enormous respect. I would examine what they say. They may be right for all I know. That is something that I will decide on an empirical, on an objective, on an evidence-based judgment.
Although other people will say the reason why they didn't really want the review in the first place, they've been pushed into it, as in fact you said in the past, and that they picked you because you're somebody who admits to being biased towards Prevent, I think you've said, and doesn't think this review is necessary.
Well, I've been asked to do the review, and I will do what is necessary for this review. And as I've said to you, I will be starting this with a clean sheet of paper. Nothing is outside my consideration, and I will be looking at it in an objective and fair way, as would, for example, a Court of Appeal judge who was asked to do a royal commission.
But in a case like this, it's not just about you being impartial, it's also about you being seen to be impartial. And there are many voices already saying you're not impartial, you can't be seen to be impartial, so that you're the wrong person.
Well, I mean, they can say whatever they wish, and I respect them for expressing their views. I think I will be able to prove them wrong, and that I will show that I am impartial, that I've taken this on as a self-standing review, and that it will be considered on a completely fair basis.
Saeed Abbasi, another misjudged appointment by the government. Lord Carlile is neither independent of government thinking on this issue, nor does he have the trust of the communities that have been on the receiving end of the excesses and mistakes of the Prevent policy.
Baroness Wolsey, who I respect greatly, is a former chairman of the Conservative Party. It's a matter of some interest that the minister who asked me to do this review is the immediate past chairman of the Conservative Party. So plainly, Mr. Brandon Lewis and Baroness Wolsey do not agree about asking me to do this review. I will, as I have in the past, have a robust discussion with Baroness Wolsey, and I hope I will be able to convince her that I am objective in this matter. But she's perfectly entitled to express her view, and I respect her for her bluntness, even though I think she's wrong on this subject.
People talk about culture wars in this regard, but in many other regards as well. Do you see Prevent as part of the culture wars, as having a role to play in what people term culture wars?
I see Prevent as having no role in what you describe as culture wars. Prevent is one of the 4 parts of counter-terrorism policy. It's about whether people may become terrorists, and that's what my review will be interested in. How do we deal with people? How do we safeguard people who may possibly, on evidence, be moving in the direction of terrorism? That's what Prevent has always been about, but it's not about expressions of opinion.